Okay, so hello there, and welcome back to another video of mine after a long time. Yeah, it's been a very long time actually since the last video on this channel, and also since the last time I was seen in general. Um, but yeah, I've been working on some stuff, but I didn't really find anything to be worth showing, and there's also not really um, much finished anyway, but I'm working towards finishing some things. There's some cool things ahead. But this is something me and Rechenmaschine looked at today, in particular, only today actually, in the last like three hours or something, which is a way to perform permaloading in the Nether and the End in 1.8. And not just any kind of permaloading, it's the kind of permaloading where the chunks never unload, no matter what's going on in them, right? So you might be you might remember the 1.12 permaloader, where you um, basically loaded 100 chunks on the world diagonal. Yeah, let's actually go to this construction. Where you loaded 100 chunks in the world diagonal to try and um, prevent other chunks from being unloaded by unloading those 100 chunks in the world diagonal, and then um, and in other chunks that you want to keep loaded, you have hoppers, for example, that access the chunk, because any access to any chunk in the world that is currently in the set of all chunks to be unloaded will get removed from that set if something happens in that chunk. That's kind of how permaloaders work, right? So in 1.8, this exact feature that the chunks can be removed from the set is not a thing, right? So 1.8 just doesn't have that. In 1.8, every single chunk that is scheduled to be unloaded will be unloaded eventually. Okay, now that we know this, how can we perform permaloading? Um, well, our first ideas, which Myron actually mentioned in the 1.8 falling block video, was to load 90,000 chunks. So in the overworld, this is actually the way to permaload. You load 90,000 chunks in 900 game ticks, and then all of them will be scheduled to be unloaded in 900 game ticks, right? So when you load 90,000 chunks, no other chunks can be unloaded ever, because you just loaded so many chunks that each ticket unloads 100 new chunks, but it will never catch up and never unload any other chunks than the 90,000 chunks of your permaloader. But 90,000 chunks is a lot, you know, it's really a lot, and you kind of don't want that. So in the Nether and End, we can actually make use of a feature which is dimension unloading. So in the code, in the uh, player manager, um, it says here update player instances. This gets called every tick in every dimension. And there's, by the way, the 8001 game tick clock here for async stuff. I think this is it. Anyway, so down here in 1.8, in later versions, this is no longer the case, I think. Um, at least not this specific behavior. In 1.8, it looks if a dimension does not have any players. And if the dimension does not have any players, it will then see if it's the overworld or not. And if it's not the overworld, it will mark all chunks to be unloaded. So all currently loaded chunks will be put into the dropped chunk set. So drop chunk just puts them into the drop chunk set. This is MCP mappings, by the way. And this is basically the set of all chunks to be unloaded. So these are not like the unloaded chunks, but this set gets traversed 100 chunks at a time, wherever it is. Somewhere down here, I guess. Yeah, here, unload queue chunks, 100 chunks at a time. This one is a constant for 100. And we just unload those chunks one after the other, but only 100 chunks at a time. So if we load on the Nether, we basically on the End also. End is better, by the way. I'll explain later why. So in the Nether and End, you can schedule chunks to be unloaded every tick if there's no player in the dimension, and that's exactly what we make use of here. Let's quickly look here. I'm also on Linux right now. It's a bit annoying, but oh well. Just kind of my situation at the moment. So yeah, if you can get 100 chunks to be scheduled to be unloaded every game tick, you can just load those 100 chunks again. Now you might already see the problem. If you load and unload 100 chunks every game tick, that's a lot of chunks to load and unload. So you kind of want those chunks to basically be empty. And in this case, here we're in the Nether. You can see the red sky and so on. But we're actually in the end. So I built this up in the end in this world to get void chunks, because void chunks have almost no data at all and are really lag efficient. So this thing lags quite a bit, but if you have void chunks, it lags a lot less. Um, and you can actually place these hoppers in void chunks by using ghost blocks. I can maybe show that later. Actually, let's show it now. So you can use a ghost block generator like this one here, where you have a piston and some slime and a different kind of piston. And actually, let's go in here: redstone comparator, repeater, and that go block or whatever. So I think it goes. So I'll do it against this corner now. Goes something like this. You have a piston here and a repeater here, and actually, nah, this is this is actually harder than I would have imagined. You'd need to from a buffer. Doing it on the fly, this was a bad idea to do this now. Okay, anyways. Um, let's see if I can get this to work. If not, I'm gonna restart here. Oh my god. Quick ghost block generator. Um, so this should should we have oops. Um, yeah, there's a yeah, you see ghost block generator. There we go. Okay, so we can get ghost blocks here, and we make 4 ghost blocks. So then we can place a hopper against this chunk border and the hopper against this chunk border, even in survival mode. So I can maybe show this in survival mode too. Let's get a couple hoppers and make this and go game mode 0. Then we can place a hopper here. Click away this guy and place a hopper here. And then you can fill these up with some items and load chunks, and you didn't need to place any blocks in these 2 chunks, so in the end those would still be void chunks. Of course, in the Nether you kind of have a big problem because you always have um, 8 sub chunks. That's kind of bad. And actually, it's really bad because that really makes it a lot more laggy. The only viable place to do this is the end. But I'm showing it in the other because the chunk debug viewer that RPM made somehow just doesn't work for me in the end. It just crashes constantly. I don't know. So I'm showing it in the other. But actually, this is for the end. This is only really viable for the end. Okay, so I've been rambling for a while now. Let's actually see it run. So I'm actually gonna connect to the chunk debug screen. You can see some bugs here with the chunk debug. It's quite funny. You need to go down in distance too. Maybe. Okay, there we go. So you see the chunks that I load and unload here. So red means so the yellow means the unload was scheduled, and red means the unload that was actually executed then. And these light blue chunks are the chunks that were loaded, and these blue chunks are just loaded chunks. Okay. So I've got a little clock set up here. So I'm gonna get armor stand. So basically to show that this is actually entity processing, and it stays entity processing. Okay. Boom, it's an amazing clock right here. Great. Okay. And we have a command here to look at the autosave. So the autosave is incoming soon. So now we loaded everything, and now we go through this portal. Now we see it flicker. This is exactly what we would have expected. And then we need to also turn on this clock, because otherwise the highs will stop. Okay. So now you can see it here unloading and reloading every game tick. But I actually need to disconnect this because it lags, so this chunk debug screen lags very much, and it actually is a huge memory waste because this guy has to keep track of all the ticks here. That's really bad. So this is kind of like a memory leak. This crashes my PC in like 3 minutes, fills it all up. So yeah, let's close this again. But you can see these high messages are still coming in, and they will be coming in forever, basically. Um, let's just tick walk here. You can see it just continues saying hi all the time. And these chunks never unload. They don't have anything inside of them. So even the chunks that the player loaded, right, when he left the Nether, will also never unload. Nothing will ever unload ever again in the Nether now. Like literally ever. It's impossible for stuff to unload, and it only produces about 6 milliseconds of lag. If I like look at what's actually lagging, I actually know it's a bit stupid. This is kind of horrible here. But we can basically see most of the lag is coming from entities, and those are the hoppers loading chunks. So the hoppers themselves are not laggy, but the hoppers that load chunks are quite laggy. Oh no, it's gone. Right, so most of the lag comes from entities, and the rest, I kind of, well, it was probably the unload. Um, yeah, if we look at this, unloading takes a while as well. Because of course we have to unload 100 chunks every game tick. So this is basically loading and unloading. Now the player manager lags a bit too because of course it has to add a bunch of chunks to the set of all chunks to be unloaded. And a lot of these chunks are actually already added to the set. So the more chunks you load, the laggier the player chunk manager will be. But I think that 6 ms is kind of okay for this machine. If it's in the end. In the Nether, it would be horrible because there are just so many more sub-chunks to load and sub-chunks to save as well from disk. Um, so that wouldn't be very, very good. But yeah. Okay, so while this is running, I guess I will quickly talk a bit about like what has been happening. So I didn't really really do much creative stuff, but I have some videos planned for the next like next couple of months, I guess, and some projects that are still ongoing. There's one Slimestone project, and one basically two async projects, I guess, but the second one will never be finished, so who knows. Um, and Yeah, I also want to make an update video on Tech because there were a lot of new developments in Tech. Just show that it's still running. That are kind of interesting and that I would really like to show, but I just haven't come around to do it. Um, but yeah, I guess that's just how it goes, right? That's just nothing really happening on this channel. But I hope this was kind of interesting. I will leave a world download for the Nether side of this in the description, with just the region files of this Nether. Um, but like it's really simple if you really want it. Um, it's just like a regular permaloader, but it's 200 chunks long actually because of some phase issues that we come into contact with. Myron explained earlier, but I won't try to replicate. Um, okay. So yeah, that's it, I guess. And thanks for watching. And the next videos will be a lot more exciting, I hope. Let's see what the next videos will actually be. Yeah. Okay. Then bye.